Welcome to Unleash Your Inspired Voice, the podcast that focuses on developing a more conscious-minded, heart-centered approach to life and business. And now here to introduce today's special guest is the host of Unleash Your Inspired Voice, author, content strategist, and Unity Consciousness activist, Peter Clark Nelson.
Hi, I'm Peter Clark Nelson, the host of Unleash Your Inspired Voice. It's been nearly a year since our last episode, and after a much-needed hiatus, I'm super excited to relaunch the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast with today's guest, Sita Rose. Sita Rose is a spirit seeker, space holder, and music maker. Based in San Diego, California, she is an expressive performer skilled at crafting melodic medicine derived from the heart. Drawing from her experience as a board-certified music therapist, devotional singer, tantra and yoga practitioner, her sacred work is designed to elevate consciousness and promote peace. Her gypsy spirit has led her to study the ancient healing qualities of music throughout India, South America, and Jamaica. As co-founder of Seed and Song, she is passionate about fostering communities that empower women to live freely. This is further demonstrated and expressed in the Voice of the Creatrix, a 3-month online women's vocal coaching program that Sita created for awakening the divine creatrix inside. She is also the founder and host of the groundbreaking Singing Sirens Women's Retreat, taking place June 14th through June 16th, 2019 in Escondido, California. In 2018, she released her debut album, In Essence, a divinely inspired concept album. Each song reflects the essence of one of the 7 primary chakras. It beautifully serves as a launchpad for creativity, inner harmony, and a catalyst for healing. To get things started on this episode, we're going to hear some brief clips from In Essence as our lead-in to Sita's heart-expansive and voice-activating interview.
Magnetic lullaby, sweet conscience, hear my cry. Attune me to your sun, align me to the moon. Feel away the petals of your pain. Beyond the clouds, I wade in the waters that flow through your mind, bow to the moments where we intertwine. I pick up each stone like a trail leading home, leave some behind so you know where to find me. Show me the way. I flow through illusions, dissolved by the clouds, merge with the wonder where beauty abounds. I pick up each stone like a trail leading home, leave some behind so you know where to find me. Show me the way.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Peter Clark Nelson, and I want to welcome you to a new episode of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. This is the show that teaches you how to joyously scale your consciousness while profitably scaling a heart-centered business. And I am super excited and truly honored to have on as a guest today the divinely gifted Sita Rose. Sita, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Peter. It is truly an honor to be here.
I'm really looking forward to getting into just the journey that you've been on. So let's get things started with where your musical path became your spiritual path and really how those merged.
So music has always been, since birth, this opportunity to connect. It was this platform in which I felt the most heard, the most seen, and really this opportunity to connect deeply beyond words with other people. And this was cultivated in my family. It was a way that we all came together and celebrated, and musicians have been part of my ancestry and lineage of musicians. And so that was really this opportunity for us to come together and enjoy the unifying aspect of music. And so when I started to think to like, what do I want to do with my life? In the thinking brain, it's like, well, music, of course, but it wasn't music in the way that was traditionally cultivated in like performing or teaching, even though I do teach now. I came to the path of music therapy. And so music therapy to me was this beautiful blend of being able to use the lure and the way that music has shown up for me as an outlet for expression and emotional release, especially growing up and going through adolescence and teenage years and being a woman, going through my changes, and music was that outlet for me. And so I knew how deeply it could connect and process emotions that were really hard to talk about or hard to discuss. And so I had this deep connection with how music was this connection to spirit. And I would receive messages in the form of music. I would receive songs, or this song, I would become obsessed with songs, and it would like capture the energy of what I was feeling, and I would listen to it over and over and over again. And then I started to develop this relationship with how spirit spoke to me in music. And specifically like hearing a song that maybe I wouldn't have heard, but had an emotional connection to it, or it connected me to a certain person or moment in time. And I would start to notice that, like, oh, there's that song, listen to it. It's happening right now in this moment. And it continues to be that way in which I connect to a higher power, a higher guidance. So that, along with being really disassociated from my body after pursuing music therapy as a degree, I noticed that I wasn't in my best self. I was depleted. I was burnt out already before even really embarking on my private practice or my career as a music therapist. And so I was seeking, knowing that there was something more powerful that music therapy as a academic, educational, evidence-based practice was kind of leaving out. And it was really this spiritual connection for music that we talk about as professionals, mostly at end of life care. That's really the only time we talk about how music is this mysterious, energetic potential to bring us closer to spirit, to our divine nature. And so I went to India, brought back a harmonium, which is this beautiful drone-like organ breathing piano type of instrument. And I started to seek, I started to study and first encounter kirtan as a practice, this chanting devotional practice to connect and really focus the mind, mantra, focus the mind on a single phrase or energy or mantra. And that was the beginning of my blend of devotional meditation, music, singing, using the voice as a way to really like using a voice as a tool rather than a need to perform. So having it be this luxurious expression as a form of meditation. And for me, it was this opportunity to love up on myself and my voice and repair the relationship that I had to my voice, which was throughout high school and college. There's so much judgment placed on it, so much desire for perfection and to be enough. And I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like my voice and my gifts were enough, because they were constantly being critiqued, constantly being judged, constantly being told you could do this better, or you could sing that note with more resonance, or you could la la la, the whole list, right? And I didn't connect with music in that way. That wasn't how I wanted to show up with my voice, my music. I wanted to show up with, I'm releasing grief in this moment, in this song, in this mantra. I'm connecting to where my heart is broken. I am connecting to where I long for my own self-confidence and power and will. I am connecting to the process of wanting something, or however that looks. Like I was connecting to my own emotional process as this tool, as this platform to release that which has no words, that which I can't quite form into a linear concept. It was beyond that. It was beyond energetic understanding. And that's how I wanted to bring music together and to share that with other people as a form, as a tool, as a way to connect more deeply to themselves.
That's beautiful. And it's incredibly inspiring and liberating. I mean, to anybody and everyone who is listening to this podcast or watching this, we're all creatrixes, we're all creators. Now, obviously, some of our careers and some of the work we do is more labeled as creative, for example, music or writing and painting and things of that nature. And what I love about your journey is how you gave yourself the permission, the space to go on a deep spiritual dive into the very essence of who you are by allowing your voice to be seen, heard, and felt first and foremost by you. Because, you know, in the musical in that industry, like you were saying, there's a lot of critiquing. What's interesting is how that also plays a role in your own inner critic critiquing, you know, how we critique ourselves. We're not good enough. We got to get better. And yeah, there's improvement. But what I really love about this, and I'd like to see, you know, just if you can talk a little bit more about this for people who are watching and listening to this and who are in the midst of maybe having some struggle with allowing the gift to reveal itself outside and beyond the scope of what is supposed to be perfect, what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like, and just allow it to become what it is. So how is that process? How is that for you when you were going through that? And then, as you were saying, some of the music you've done, it's a way for you to really tap into what you're releasing, you know, a wound, emotional, whatever that may be. How, when you look back on that now, what kind of advice or suggestions would you give to others who might be in the throes of what you went through years ago?
There's a process that happens, and that happened for me, in what if this idea, just like this simple thought, what if every note I sang was filtered with love? Like, what if, just like we put filters on photos, we put filters on our masks or our identities, what if we take on and try on the filter of every note I'm singing is filled with love? And that thought was so strong throughout my practice. Additionally, it became a practice. So, we try something on and it feels uncomfortable, or we try to sing something or try a new mantra, and at first it's uncomfortable, it's new. We're working new pathways, right? We're working new ways in which we create sound or resonance. And what helped me so much was being able to do that week after week, day after day, having consistency in a way that pushed through the discomfort or pushed through any times I wanted to not show up or give up. And so these ways in which we can really connect with our voice is that it's a practice. And I think so often we want, myself included, so often we want that like magic fix, or that like magic pill, just like, let me take one session or one thing and then I'll be healed, right? And while there is spontaneity in that, and there is potency in many more modalities, but singing requires maintenance. Like, singing and connecting to the voice requires practice. It requires opportunities to keep showing up, just like brushing your teeth, right? It's not that we do it once and then we're done. It gets deeper. We're clearing away the layers. We're clearing the ways in which we're stuck here. Because this is the throat. That's what I'm pointing to. Mm-hmm. The throat is this narrow channel. It's the narrowest channel in our body. So anything that's festering inside the body in the lower parts, whether it be trauma or not enoughness, unworthiness, or the inner child wounding, any parts of us that get caught in developmental trauma lives in the body. And so anything there is going to get bottlenecked at the throat. And that's where so many people, I find, come to me and say, my throat chakra is blocked. Yes, and chances are you're blocked lowerly. There's something else that's wanting to come out. And so what is that? Is it love? Is it your purpose in the world? Is it your creative expressions in the world? Is it your security and your attachment to earth, like your actual grounding to being in your body here now on earth, your roots? And so our body is this pathway to clearing that, to connecting to it. And the voice is this, we call it Vishuddha, the truth, center of truth, right? And so if you're not being in integrity with what your heart desires or longing, or your what lights you up, right? Like, what gives you more life force energy? What gives you more activation? Are you being true in expressing that? Or perhaps maybe it gets swallowed or silenced or pushed aside for later. I'll do that thing later. And so I'm finding that the voice is also our truth teller. So if we are in conversation with somebody or connecting with a business partner, or even through emails, and sharing our vision, sharing our creative energy, sharing our power, if we're not in vibrational harmony with the body, the voice will tell us. The voice might crack, the voice might choke up, the voice might get higher. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of outside of the body, right? Trying to disassociate from what is actually true inside the body, true inside the heart, true inside our other centers. Then you have the metaphor. It's all related, right? The metaphor of like speaking your truth, speaking your voice, letting your voice be heard. And so this space of the throat is not only the most narrow, but to open it takes courage. And this is what I'm so grateful for in even having the opportunity to go through music school and to be in vocal performance and to have that critique and that discipline, and that you can do better. There is so much value in that, like thickening the skin, right? To be able to show up with even more courage to like break through that. But it's so vulnerable, and critique is so harsh, especially to those of you listening who are sensitive, right? To those who are not wanting that critique, right? The courage it takes to open up the voice is a beautifully vulnerable space, because it is you. Your voice is you. So often we try to, I come across so often, I've been there and have done this, where I try to emulate and sing like somebody else, right? Like I try to emulate my voice or try on a different vocal style that's not true to me. It's fun. I can do that. I can put on a little I can put on flavors. I can try on different filters of my voice. That's fun. But what's lost is that if you try on different filters before really knowing you, what is your natural state of vibration, we get lost. So this voice, this pathway of knowing yourself and knowing your vibration is also this metaphor of knowing you and knowing your own container. Allowing the voice to be this practice of vocal meditation or vocal awareness is this beautiful opportunity to embrace your sovereignty, to embrace you first. And know what it feels like to speak from a place of knowing, of integrity, of power, speaking from a place of love, speaking from a place of compassion and understanding, and embodying that, because your vibrational makeup is being nurtured, your vibrational cellular makeup has its own hygiene, right? It's like we're brushing, the voice is like brushing the teeth of our vibrational cellular makeup. And this integration of the voice and the body and mind and breath, intention and awareness, is this pathway to elevating our vibration, to moving beyond fear, doubt, unworthiness, lack, self-love. This is the way for many. And I think we're ready to, what I'm noticing and seeing in the beautiful souls who are showing up, seeking vocal work in this fashion, people are ready. People are ready to confront their inconsistencies inside the body. Like, I know it's time to work with my voice now. I've been seeking this. I still have emotion. Just yesterday, I talked to a woman who as she was talking about wanting to express her voice, tears start rolling. This emotion starts to fill up, to well up, because it's getting caught. When we say we have a lump in our throat, right? It's actually a lump in our throat. It's this energetic ball of like emotion getting caught here. And if we don't allow it to go anywhere, to dissipate, or to have a process to release it, move it through, emotions are just energy, right? Energy and motion. And so this actual vibration that we can create from inside ourselves is this self-healing tool. So I'm seeing more and more people getting that and are ready. They know that the voice is their pathway to integrating the whole vessel.
For everybody who is listening to this, or if you're just watching this in the video, I mean, I almost feel called let's just sit in silence for the rest of this interview. And I mean, obviously we're going to continue to talk, but that's the invitation. That's the, as you call it in the Voice of the Creatrix program, which I want to talk with you about in just a little bit. There's a module in that you call the Courage of Creativity. And that was the name of the class that you came on as a guest mentor in the activation program that I launched last month. And that's to people who are listening and watching this. That's how Sita and I, we connected last year, but then just with the way things are, I took a hiatus off of social media. I was redeveloping my own business. I'd launched this podcast and then I put it on hiatus. And to your point, Sita, about the things that come up in the unleashing of a person's inspired voice, even for somebody like myself, I've been on this path for almost 2 decades. And yet last year I found myself with that lump in my throat, that energetic blockage. And I'm like, where is this shit coming from? I mean, I kind of knew, but it's like, I could have made a choice to just continue down this path with the work. You know, I'd launched the podcast, I'd redoing programs, and things were really picking up business-wise. But I made the choice to step away from things in order to look at it again. And that takes a lot of courage. And this goes back to something you were saying earlier about just when you're creating something and you're going into the unknown. And I say this because fast forward to this year and we reconnected and I saw that you had launched your album, In Essence. And I was immediately drawn to the healing nature of the music and the lyrics, the way just what you had infused into it. It was impacting and activating me and healing. I was just like, this is profound. So I listened to Spirit and bought, the digital album for each person that was in the activation program as a bonus gift. And then I found a bonus gift because I had no idea that when I downloaded everything, and there was this beautifully well put together PDF guide that literally broke down the essence of each song, the intention behind it, the energy infused into it. And it was all based on the chakras. And that just really connected with me. And I realized right then, I'm like, okay, not only am I getting this as a bonus gift for everybody in this program, but I wanted to reach out to you and not only talk to you about potentially being a guest on the podcast, which thankfully you said yes, and here we are as a result of that. But I also had received the guidance to ask if you'd be open to being a guest mentor on the activation program. And I say all of this just to give listeners sort of a context behind just how we got to this particular interview here on the podcast, but also as I was drawn to learn more about what you were doing, I realized not only had you launched In Essence, this beautiful healing CD, but you also had launched a groundbreaking program that encapsulates everything you were just beautifully sharing, which is called the Voice of the Creatrix. And so the Courage of Creativity. And I loved it when when you were talking to me about that, because I said, well, maybe we can call your guest mentorship class The Courage of Creativity. And we looked at some of the points that you would cover and how that relates to heart-centered entrepreneurs. And that's just the thing. You don't have to be, and I'm saying this to people listening and watching this, you don't have to be a singer to be able to learn how to tap into the power of your vocal cords, to be able to sing, to be able to just let people see and hear and feel your essence and who you are and the way you communicate your inspired message. So with all that said, I want to go back to that idea of the courage of creativity. Because everything you were just talking about really comes back to courage, the courage to look at what may be creating that lump in one's throat, the courage to open up some unhealed wounds, and then the courage to step out into the world, to take the mask off oneself and to say, here I am. And here's what I want to share with the world through my gifts, my talents, and my skills. So talk a little bit about that, the courage of creativity and what that really is and how that can relate to people that are maybe looking to embark on a music career, is looking to launch a heart-centered business, or maybe they're looking to pivot and they want to take it to another level. And, they start getting that inner critic kicking in and saying, well, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should just stay right where you are. How do you look at courage when it comes to the creative process?
One thing I find that you can count on in this process of creativity, two things. There's two things you can count on. One is that fear will show up. Self-doubt will show up. The negative voices that you can't do this, that you're not enough, that you're not good enough, will come up. The inner critic will come up. The other thing is that you will probably fail at one point or another. And so having a relationship with those two things, maybe it's fear overall, fear of failure, fear of of all the things in which we tell ourselves that keep us from doing the things that we want to create in our lives, that keep us from where we're here and we're here and where we want to be, or what we even in creating a life that we desire. There's the gap between that is where we have these suffering shows up. And so the courage of creativity to me is saying, like, I see you, fear. I see you, unknown. I see that I don't know the next step, and it's dark where I might stand on this precipice as I'm walking, right? I don't know the path. I can't quite see it. I'm scared that I can't see the whole layout. I can't see the whole MapQuest directions, right?
Right.
But I don't need to know, because if I have a practice that can clear away those energetic frequencies, if I have a voice, if I have a movement practice, if I have a meditation practice, if I have something that I can lean into, be like, oh yeah. If I have a community, if I have mentors who can help dispel those projections that we put on ourselves and our process. We gotta shake out of fear. It takes so much courage to be in faith, to trust yourself, to trust the guidance, to trust the step that you're getting one at a time, right? In the MapQuest directions. You're like, okay, here's the one. Okay, just need to know that I'm turning left here so that I can stay present to that sign that I'm seeing in the moment. And so developing practice with yourself, it allows you to build more trust with your own intuition, your own guidance, your own capabilities. Because if we choose to listen to "you're not enough," or "oh no, that's not for you," because who could possibly want to book you for that festival or book you for that band, you know? We'd stay there. We'd stay in our safety net of this is the only success that I will allow myself to have, because out there is too scary. And I think a lot of where I'm at in my process right now, and where I see a lot of women in their process right now, because Voice of the Creatrix is a program specifically for women, is that we might feel what we want. We might have this deep knowing and desire for what we want, the project that we want to launch, or this business idea that we have, this idea, this like divinely inspired idea that we've received from Source, this idea that we've been given to bring through into the world. I could say no and shut off that connection to Source. I could say yes. Because my responsibility for being on this earth is much greater than that fear or that disconnection to Source. Women, we're working through a lot right now as a collective, as our divine masculine and divine feminine come more into balance. And we've been told not to express our desire. There's a lot of energetic teaching and ancient programming that you don't get to say what it is you want. And so by using the voice and connecting it to our sensuality and our wisdom of the womb, wisdom of our creative energy, our ability to bring life into the world, to actually physically bring life, our creative circling, like this creative energy flow that we have the potential for any given moment, will either be created for that yes that you say to Source, and also be created for that no that you say. And those creations, like the mind, we're talking, the throat, as you were saying about the vocal activation program, I was watching you speak. And it's like, this throat is so little, and our mind is so vast and so powerful. And like, also our body is so big compared to the size of our head, right? Mm-hmm. And so our throat has such a big job being the bridge between this massive body, this knowing, this sensing, wise body, flesh, all of this. Has such a big job, the throat, to connect it to the head. And our ability to open to Source, to receive those ideas, right? The voice is this bridge for our human ability to be in form, our humanness, our sense of grounding, stability, right? All the lower chakras, the heart, our love, and the wisdom, the ideas, the knowledge, the teaching, the insight, the vision, right? All of these have to come through and meet so that the voice can be our bridge from the earthly plane, from the heavens. And so if we're not using the energy to create, the mind is very creative. The mind will create stories. The mind will create reasons and limitations to not do that thing. We just gotta, with the voice or with your creativity, you get to like just bring the brain down and be like, hey, just notice what we're creating here in this world of you can do it. You are enough. Because this idea is bigger than you. You get to say yes. If you don't say yes, this idea, this vision, this business plan, this product that you want to create, this book that you want to write, go to somebody else who does say yes. Because we are all creating in every moment. The flowers are blooming. Flowers get fertilized. The universe is in constant form of creation and destruction. And so when we're able to tap into that creativity, I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling like I might fail. I'm feeling doubt. But I'm going to do this anyway. I think that's where courage of creativity is for those who are courageous to embark on the dedication and devotion to themselves, to this higher calling. Do it even though I'm taking a risk. I'm gonna buy those flyers. I don't know if anybody's gonna come to this workshop. I'm gonna invest up front. I'm gonna buy a whole set of bowls and just put it on my credit card, crystal bowls, because I trust and I believe that by making this investment, because it is of higher calling.
So those of you who are listening and watching this, you might see a little bit of an edit right there. That's when the vibrations and frequency are so strong and so high that the internet just can't take it. So part of the internet, we had a bit of a drop there. And I want to go right back to what you were saying, Sita, just before that that occurred. You were talking about just the investment in yourself, which is really the investment in your voice being seen, heard, and felt. And how you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy those crystal bowls. I'm going to invest in that because I know it's going to help take me to another level. So, and you were giving examples of other things that you were investing in spite of the fear that you may have been feeling, the anxiety, you went ahead anyway. So kind of expand a little bit on that and just why it's so important for each of us as heart-centered, conscious-minded entrepreneurs, but also people who aren't even in business, to say yes to the voice of their own heart, to say yes to their heart's desires and where they know they're going to find their bliss and their joy.
I think we get to this moment where it's time to like put our money where our mouth is, really, right? Like put our, I love all these analogies because it's so interesting when you correlate them to the chakras, right? Like put our money where our mouth is, put our groundedness, our rootedness, our financial stability, right? So you're taking the stability away from your feet and putting it to your throat, put it to your mouth and be like, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. Do this. And that can be very unstabilizing, can be very shaky because I can't see the next step. There's no guarantee. And so I've been here. I've gotten to that point where I'm at this opportunity where I could say yes to expanding, or I can take the risk of of investing in a program, coaching program. I did this last year. I got to this point, and all of my defenses started to come up. All the reasons why I shouldn't do it. All the reasons why now is not the time. I don't have the money right now. I had a really great coach. She didn't let me off the hook. And she so lovingly helped me to uncover that, to look at that more. And this coaching program led me through 6 months of the creation process for, in essence, the album. So I was supported in a group of sisters, of sisterhood women, who were also embodied leaders, wanting to bring in the divine feminine into all areas of their life. So I was being supported on an energetic level, an emotional level. And that's scary. That shit is scary, right? So we can get to this point where we could say yes to expansion or no to staying where I'm at. And so many people stop there. Oh, I want to write this book, but I'm a mother of 3 kids. Like, how can I ever find the time? You like invest your time. And that can be a sacrifice sometimes. That can also be a challenge, right? It's like, but we expand through those challenges. Like, we know this. We know this. Like, our mind knows that, like, oh yeah, discomfort is where growth is. Okay, yeah, okay. Expansion is where, I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more to expand my business. I'm gonna have to invest. Okay, I'm gonna have to change my lifestyle if I want to do this thing. Don't get me started on change, then there's change, right? And how our body reacts to change. So the mind knows that the fruits of our labor are just on the other side of that hard, challenging, difficult thing. And yet we need to bring our body in and calm our body in a way that I find is missing for a lot of creatives, like using the wisdom of our body, or more so, those who get stuck, right? Those who get stuck in the head, where you get like caught up in your own brain, your own story, the own creations of your mind, right? And so it's like we have to bring that down into the body to soothe, to digest, to reintegrate the energy. And that fire, really, it's very activating. The thoughts that we can create, right? The stories. We should like bring that down to like fuel our own internal body fire. And that takes dedication and practice and commitment and showing up even in the risk. So we need support. We need people to help remind us that you're doing great. You're doing fine. Let's put our visions together so that I can help you see bigger in the bigger picture, right? I think also as conscious, heart-centered business entrepreneurs, creatives, because there's a lot of heart coming through, a lot of vulnerability coming through, we can get a little myopic in our vision and like get hung up on this like one detail. So means so much. Like, oh, it means so much for this detail to be perfect. We kind of become fixated or obsessed and can also lose sight of that doesn't matter. Okay. Oh yeah, that doesn't matter. I can move through that. I can move through that like very little detail if it's not perfect.
I want to go back to something you were saying earlier, because it kind of brings us up to the point where let's talk a little bit about the process you went through with, in essence, the album, and then how that propelled you into launching the Voice of the Creatrix. And part of what you were saying earlier was about that safety zone, that where do I feel safe, where the comfort zone. And what's really interesting about that, and it's very hypnotic for people, the safety zone, the comfort zone. Listen to those words. I say this to everybody that's listening or watching this. There is nothing safe and there's nothing comfortable about it. That shit is where suffering is festered. It's where it is cultivated. Because when we say yes to the voice of our creation, which is speaking to us and through us, and when we say yes to being the vessel and the instrument, the voice of our creation, and being able to let it come out and be seen, a lot of what we're saying yes to is what we weren't raised or conditioned to be effective at, which is receiving, which I think is so beautiful about what you said about the support. So many people fear that they're suffering in isolation or that they're going to succeed in obscurity. And they're afraid to ask for help. They're afraid to share their vision, to be a part of a group as much as they may want to, because there's vulnerability there. And so when we say yes to what we want to create, we are actually saying yes to receiving our heart's desires. And the vast majority of us were raised to be people pleasers. We were raised to give, and give more. We weren't taught how to receive. So when we give our gifts out to the world, we cannot share those gifts if we don't own them. So we've got to own that first. But to share is to receive. And I love the way you talked about the essence of the support. And that's what's so beautiful about Voice of the Creatrix. It's what's so beautiful about Singing Sirens, which is your upcoming retreat in June, because it's about providing a safe, nurturing, empowering space for women who, for the most part, as you were talking about, for centuries, were indoctrinated into this horrific imprisonment of who they are as creatrixes, this imprisonment of their voice. And so now that we're in the age of Aquarius, we're in the age of unity consciousness, where we are all collectively giving birth to it, we cannot fully bring ourselves to the next level of this birthing process without the creatrix, without the divine feminine. And I think what you, and there's others, but what you're doing, it's really unique in many ways. So let's talk a little bit about these, what you've given birth to, your creations. And we'll start with In Essence. We'll go and then talk about the Voice of the Creatrix, and then Singing Sirens. And I say that in a linear process because that's the order that they came through, you. And I know that from the activation program, you were sharing with the group a bit of a challenge that you came upon near the completion of the album. And this takes us back to the lump in the throat and how certain things in the body, it'll come up. And if you're resisting and not allowing it to show up, I mean, it could, well, I'll let you tell the story about what it did to your voice while you were recording your masterpiece, In Essence. So share a little bit about that process and how that all went down and the way that you allowed yourself to complete the album and release it.
Sure, yeah. So in essence, the album itself was this coming out party for me. It was this way that I was showing to the world, like, I'm sharing this new way of expressing, right? I'm creating an album that don't really have a genre for. I'm creating this album as a tool for people. Like, it's like an actual tool. It's not necessarily intended to be used for soundtrack or a pop album, right? It's like, those are so clear. It's like, I'm creating this album that is deep inside of me and my relationship with sound. So it was such a vulnerable experience. It's also the first time that I've created my own solo album, where I was responsible for it all. Like every detail was mine to own and to make the calls for and say, yes, let's add drums here. I don't know, maybe that'd be great. I don't know, we're creating it. Like there's nothing, like we're not singing it, we're not covering a jazz standard here. There's no map for this, right? And so it was such an opportunity to develop trust with my own creative voice. And it was this opportunity to really get real with who I am as an artist. And even that identity was confronting, right? Like here I am, I'm a daughter of musicians who like love musical theater and jazz and classical piano, right? This spirituality music, new age music, is breaking the form that I grew up in, right? So it was very vulnerable. It was repairing my own connection to my enoughness, like being good enough to create an album, having enough support, feeling like, it was good enough, the whole album itself. And so I was experiencing a lot of, as you can imagine, experiencing a lot of self-doubt and fear. And I was a kind of past at my limit of which I could experience like that vulnerability in the process, right? I was feeling like, I just want to hide again. Like I've shown too much. I'm starting to show too much. And I got sick, right? I got sick while I was creating this album, while I've already put on this pressure for myself to have it done by this date, to make sure that, we have certain musicians that are coming in. So I got to make sure that we can get them in and pay for them by the time that, it was like I was on a timeline, I was on a deadline. And so I got really sick and had a sinus infection, and then it went to my ears. And so I had this whole ear infection, which, I can't even tell you the last time I had an ear infection, right? Not since I was like 9. I get sinus infections a lot, but not ear infections, right? And so I couldn't hear. I really couldn't hear for the majority of the tracking for the vocal nectar song, the voice chakra song. So we're tracking it, I'm singing it, and, my perfectionism totally starts to enter, like, this isn't the quality that I want. This isn't like how I imagine this would go. This isn't fun anymore. I had to like turn to my sister to be like, because she was there as well tracking with me. I was like, is that right? Did I sing that in tune a little bit? Yeah, okay. So I had to ask for support, ask for help. Even asking for her help was a beautiful exercise and exchange for my own relationship with my sister. And so fear. I went to my acupuncturist the next, couple times during that season. She's like, oh, well, yeah. Ears have to do with fear. Like, what voice are you listening to? So it was so interesting to not really have that sense of hearing, because I could really hear my own voice, my own thoughts, my own guidance. And so I surrendered. And there was one moment where we took a break from the studio and tracking this song because I was getting frustrated. And my sister and I went and got some tea and coffee, and we were talking about the importance that this song had and how I was feeling disappointed in how it was being executed, because it didn't feel joyful and fun and like, hashtag best life ever, right? Like it wasn't that. like this creative process is not glorious all the time. And so we started talking, and I like had a lot of emotion. I was crying a lot. And I went to the bathroom, and I had been doing all these, like, I was researching everything. Like, how can I get the mucus out of my ears? And like, how can I opening my, like blowing my nose, blah, 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 all the things. And then I went to the bathroom, and pop, right after crying, just pop, my ears opened up again. It like gave me just enough hope, just enough of a like, don't worry, your ears are not going to be clogged forever. You're going to be fine. Maybe cry a little bit more. Maybe release a little bit more. And so that was the process with In Essence. It was a beautiful success. It was a beautiful opportunity to share with my community, to share with other people, to share with you and the activation program. Because I didn't have the attachment to what happened to it. I didn't have to sell albums. That wasn't my intention at all. I had a beautiful opportunity to receive and ask for support financially from the community and do a Kickstarter and have the album supported up front. I was like, as long as like it's supported and I don't feel like I'm depleting my own resources to make this album happen, like how can I create abundance here so that this album can really be infused with that level of worth? So the attachment was not to create this high selling, 1,000 plays on Spotify. That wasn't it. It was intended to be used as a tool and an example for other people and for myself that I can carve this way, this new genre of music. I'd call it like mantra meditation / like educational, it's a tool that is a practice where you can, I call it this like launch point for your own creative interaction with it. The desire was so that you could listen to a track and like hear a beautiful mantra, yes, but then also create your own words to it, create your own harmonies with it. There's space inside where like you can drive in your car listening to it and interact with it, activating your own chakra, activating your own body by using the voice and singing through it. And so, I had so much feedback from it. And one friend and fellow yoga teacher and musician, and he said, wow, it's really amazing that you did a concept album as your first album. I was like, well, thank you for seeing that. And the thought the label of that didn't even cross my mind as like a concept album. It's like, it's just what was in alignment with the workshops that I had been doing already before Voice of the Creatrix program in person. And it's like, what if this could be an accessible tool for people who maybe do take a program or do take a workshop and then can like continue their own practice? It's this like, right, take home. And so Voice of the Creatrix has been this vision. It's been percolating for a couple years now in my own exploration of sensuality and neo-tantra practices and really connecting to life force energy. There's this realization, and the more that I studied the voice, the more that I studied our connection to the throat, like it mirrors our connection to our sensuality. And so the desire was to bring women into their space of their womb and their pleasure and their ability to connect to their divine feminine nature. And link, finally marry the second chakra, right, to the throat. Really bring our sacral energy and move it through in a way that is not a traditional voice lesson, right? It's like, we're using the voice, but I don't even care how you sound. Nobody cares how you sound, right? It's not like you're going to get this I went through this process, the like masculine way of learning how to use the voice, right? It's very technical. It's very like, well, then if you're singing this note, open your mouth this wide and then feel it in the back and let your tongue go down, right? It's more about allowing the voice to be your conduit of expression and creating a more intimate relationship with your body, your pleasure, your sensuality, and using the voice as the weaving in through the body, and using the voice as this little vibrational clearing and manifestation, and a space where, and a container in which you can explore the full range of your expression. So many beautiful speakers and teachers and leaders maybe speak in about 3 different notes, right? Or like certain volume all the time. Our voice carries so much energy and nuance, and you can use it as your own painting. So that's what Voice of the Creatrix has been. We've done 1 round of it so far, and these practices are being taught ways to really connect with your voice, and also to release the ways in which we self-sabotage our own creative energy and execution of desires and programs and new ideas. I have many women who are creating new businesses or launching a new project or creating things, like actual things in their life. And so they are breathing that energy into it each time they sit down to write an email, each time they sit down to ask for what they need, this like invitation to come play, come play.
First of all, I want to honor you for, the word that comes to mind is a trailblazer. The true essence of a creatrix and a creator, which is creating out of no theme. And you are creating with, in essence, as your friend aptly described, it's a concept album, but you didn't think of it like that, because if you had, you may have gotten in your head a little bit, like, well, it's a concept album, all this other stuff that goes on. You're creating things from your heart, but what really is remarkable about the Voice of the Creatrix is, as you said, so the patriarchy, the way the patriarchy has constructed creativity is it's an attempt, a futile attempt, to put confinements and limits on creativity. You cannot do that, because that's where you start to create suffering. You start to limit people's ability to really find their voice. But even in spiritual communities and spiritual circles, that same level of confinement and detachment has happened, because one of the chakras that I think is probably most overlooked is the sacral and the solar plexus. You always hear about the heart. hear about some of the voice. You hear the third eye, the crown chakra. Oh, let's go, floating up in the ethers. But if all we do is focus on the crown and the third eye at the exclusion of what has been going on in the sacral, in the womb, then we're limiting our ability to truly be in touch and in tune with our divinity. So I love what you're doing with giving women a space to connect the sacral to the throat, so that, as you so beautifully said, they're infusing their essence and presence into what could be construed as a mundane act of sending an email or making a comment on somebody's post on social media or cooking dinner or going outside, whatever. Like, every time you're breathing, it's an act of creation. Every time you open your eyes and blink your eyes, it's an act of creation. So why not create with love? Why not create with no limits in mind? And that's not easy when we've been spending eons being indoctrinated into the complete opposite. So you are very much a pioneer in this new age of being able to align, to be able to peel back the layers that we've been afraid to peer into, to feel into. And I can't say enough about how just fortunate all the women are who are able to say yes to Voice of the Creatrix, to say yes to the work that you do. And I've witnessed it firsthand in the context of how you came into the activation program and activated everybody that was in it. And I can speak from my own personal experience of how I was activated from In Essence. And you're so on point with the fact that, yeah, you create this album, you can drive. What I have listened to it when I'm driving, and I don't think of it like it's not a traditional album in any way, shape, or form. It's a way to activate your chakras. It's a way to be in touch with your divinity. It's a way to literally and figuratively unleash your inspired voice in every conceivable way. So with that in mind, let's, as we get ready to wrap up, let's talk about the retreat that you have coming up and how that has evolved out of the exploration of your own depth and creativity from In Essence to the Voice of the Creatrix to what you're now about ready to give birth to with your co-collaborators in June.
We're very excited about this vision for us to come together as much and as deeply grateful as I am to have new technologies where we can expand and where we can connect with more people more quickly, more efficiently over internet and over our computer, our screen. It's important for us to have spaces where we can be without that and to be in the connection and in relationship to our own vibrations as a collective, as a group. And so this retreat is a beautiful celebration of the Voice of the Creatrix program for those who are involved. And it's an invitation to women who want to experience the space where they don't have to do anything, space where they can be, space where they can explore these different practices. So myself, along with 6 other women, these are women who are in my sphere and who I adore and respect and are using sound and vibration and their own healing modalities. So 7 of us together, including myself, are bringing this weekend alive with your nervous system in mind. We can boost the adrenals a little bit, let go of the stress. We have yoga and movement and sound to bring you into the space, ceremony, ritual. We have a beautiful goddess who is offering light work with breath and sound. I'll be guiding the sensuality of singing. I have a beautiful cacao ceremony to enhance your experience, to open the heart folder, to allow for the connection for the sacral, the third chakra, solar plexus, to allow the heart, the gatekeeper, to open a little bit, right? Then we can really allow the voice to open or expression. And so then we have two other beautiful women. One will be offering yoga of the goddesses, so connecting with goddess energy through mantra and mudra and asana, yoga postures. And we have another music therapist colleague of mine who is trained in the Bani method of guided meditation, which is almost like hypnosis with music, using the music as a way to work with the subconscious level. Kind of clear out, dust away the subconscious whisperings of doubt and fear and all the things, right? And so this weekend is an opportunity to explore what it is to embody creative energy, divine feminine, the pull. So it's singing Sirens Retreat is that same essence of like, come play with us, of the mythology of the sirens singing to the sailors. We're not going to go so far as to like kill the sailors or, manipulate the sailors. That's like old toxic femininity. But this idea of like, just come be and play and explore and bring like that child, like openness and exploration, and using these pathways to the voice, to the movement, to vibration, to sound, to open up and receive. I love what you said about receiving, and the feminine loves to receive. So many of these women, so many women in my life that I see, that I witness, myself included, right, that we're like doing the job, supporting the family, holding it all together, being a good friend, being a good mother, trying to like be the best entrepreneur, trying to like do all these things that we need space. We need a reminder to soften into being held by community, being held by the earth, to be held so that we can show up a little bit more fully to those responsibilities.
I absolutely love what you're doing. And I also want to just say, for those men who are listening to this program, who are watching this, you may be wondering, how can you embody more of your divine feminine energies? Sita just said it. It's receiving. It's allowing yourself to receive. It's allowing yourself to feel safe in the space of vulnerability, because we were raised to believe vulnerability was a sign of weakness. It's the essence of our strength. So when you are supporting the divine feminine in her exploration of her power, there could be moments where as a man, you can feel quite intimidated, quite vulnerable. But it's in those spaces of vulnerability where you begin to find the essence of who you are. And I love how you said, the old idea of the sirens, that's the hero's journey, right? We're not in the hero's journey anymore. The hero's journey took us here. The hero's journey is basically a perpetual cycle of suffering. Have a little bit of success. And when you lose, you win. And when you win, you lose. It's like you have just moments of joy, and then you have to go back into the blood, sweat, and tears. That's the old story. The new story is the creatrix and the creator, where we know we have the power to create the reality of our dreams, the reality of our heart's desires. Yet to break the addiction of the suffering that is at the heart of the hero's journey, we need support. So for men and for women out there that are listening to this, that are wondering, well, what can I do? The first thing you can do is to say yes to what your heart is calling you to do. But in order to hear your heart, in order to speak with and commune with your heart, you're going to need to give yourself the space to quiet, so that you're not confusing activity with accomplishment. You're not wondering, well, shit, how many things did I check off my to-do list today or this week or this weekend? It's taking a step back and realizing you're not losing anything. You're actually gaining more than you can imagine. And then being willing to say yes, not just simply to your voice or your heart, but to say yes to the support that we all need. We say yes. No one can say yes for us, but we cannot go on this path alone. We need and require the support of others. And I love how you show up, Sita, and shining your light as a beacon for others to find themselves by saying yes to what you're creating. And in the midst of them doing that, it's not just creating a new business, it's not creating a new this, it's literally and figuratively creating a new way of living. So for those who are ready to say yes to your programs, the women who are called to feel into the essence of who they are, how do they find you? How do they take that next step and to engage with what you're putting out there for people to say yes to?
The most direct way is to send me an email, sitarosemusic@gmail.com. My website, sitarose.com, has more information about the next round of Voice of the Creatrix program. We're doing an intensive, so it'll be this summer intensive, 6-week session. The retreat, Singing Sirens retreat, is happening June 14th through the 16th. All that information can be found on my website, sitarose.com. And of course, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Sita Rose Yoga for Instagram, and then Sita Rose for Facebook. And I'm here. I would love to receive your stories or your work, and I'm available for private sessions and also to just receive your story.
Sita, I want to say thank you to you for saying yes to being a guest on the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. And I want to thank you for saying yes to the activation as a collaborator and a guest mentor. Most of all, though, I just want to say thank you for saying yes to hearing the calling of your voice, because as you said yes, you activated people all over the world to open up new passageways, new doorways, new gateways to finding themselves. And when someone like you says yes, what that does is it creates an opportunity for others to give themselves permission to step into their authentic best selves. And we need more people like you. So thank you again for being a part of the podcast. And I want to thank everybody from my inspired voice and grateful heart to yours for joining us on this segment of Unleash Your Inspired Voice. And I look forward to having you join me on the next episode. And in the meantime, be sure to give yourself permission to unleash your inspired voice, because the world needs to hear, feel, and see you now more than ever. Have a creatively abundant day, and I look forward to having you join me on the next podcast. I want to thank our guest for today, Sita Rose, for joining us on the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. To download your digital copy of her album, In Essence, and to learn more about Sita and her groundbreaking group programs and retreats, please be sure to visit sitarose.com. You can also find Sita's inspiring posts and updates on the Voice of the Creatrix group program on Facebook and Instagram. To get access to bonus material from previous guests and episodes of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast, as well as being notified of upcoming guests and special events, please be sure to visit unleashyourinspiredvoice.com and sign up today. I also want to give a shout out and offer my eternal gratitude for the divinely gifted team here at the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. Talassa Tam of Talassa Designs, who is the amazingly gifted artist behind the branding of Unleash Your Inspired Voice. To learn more about how she can bring your vision to life through beautiful and heart-centered brand design, please visit talassadesigns.com. And to my dear friend and brilliant podcast producer, Samantha Castro of Castro Creations, thank you for all you do. Without you, the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast would not exist as it does today. If you're seeking high-level editing, mixing, production, and support on your videos or your podcast, please be sure to visit scastrocreations.com. As always, thank you all for joining us on Unleash Your Inspired Voice and for playing an important part in giving birth to unity consciousness in our lifetime.